So since I made my last few videos on job interview questions for supply chain roles like procurement manager, supply planning manager, and demand manager, a number of my followers have been asking me to make a very similar video for warehouse manager job interview questions. So in this video, I will walk you through the key dimensions of a warehouse manager's job, the 5 different areas in which you can expect questions to come in a warehouse manager job interview and what those questions are. And if you watch till the end, I will also give you some bonus questions that you should prepare to ask the recruiter at the end of this job interview. My name is Jamil Hai, and I've been working in supply chain management job positions across South Asia, Middle East, and North America for the last 2 decades. And my mission is to help supply chain professionals like you build real life skills for your job and career that they don't teach you in college. And if you are preparing for a supply chain job interview anytime soon, you should definitely book a session with me, because I'm going to take your resume, the job description you are applying for, and based on my experience, I will give you some laser guided tips and tricks in order to maximize your chances of success in your next job interview. So first of all, let's cover the key dimensions of a warehouse manager's job. There are 4 key dimensions of this role. The first one is warehouse management. The second one is problem solving and decision making, because in this job it requires you to make decisions on a daily basis. Transportation and supply chain, because you are working with transporters, with shippers, and you are also working with your upstream supply chain partners like planning and so on, in order to most efficiently move the volume through the warehouse. And lastly, and most importantly, team management. As a warehouse manager, you will be managing at least 10, 15, 20, sometimes hundreds of people depending on the size of the warehouse. So team management and leadership are key aspects of this role. Now, keeping all of this in mind, there are 5 areas in which different types of questions can come in this job interview. These areas are starter questions, operations management questions, team management questions, problem solving and decision making questions, and logistics and supply chain questions. And like I mentioned earlier, if you watch this video till the end, I will also give you some bonus questions that you should prepare to ask the recruiter, because those are going to reinforce your strong position as a candidate in this hiring process. Now let's first start with the starter questions. And the first question you can expect here is, walk me through your resume or tell me about yourself. Now, these are very generic questions and they are not very specific to warehouse management. And I'm not going to go through a lot of details anyways, because I've already made 2 separate videos on these 2 different questions. And so one of them is how to answer walk me through your resume questions with a real example, which you can watch by clicking over here. And I've also made a video on how to answer tell me about yourself. So you can watch those videos and get a very good idea on how best to prepare for this particular question. The second question you can expect is, how will you benefit our company as a warehouse manager? Now, this is a type of question which I would categorize as an open-ended question. You know, it's basically that just asking you, how will our company benefit? Basically, why should we hire you? That kind of a question. Right now, sometimes these questions can come unexpectedly, and a lot of times the candidates just get concerned or they get nervous when these kind of questions are asked. But here I will share with you something called the 3 bullet point rule. So sometimes when you get these kind of unexpected questions or open-ended questions, the way you should organize your brain around answering these is always say that, okay, let me give you 3 reasons why you should hire me, or let me give you 3 reasons why you should do this or that. So in this particular case, you can apply that 3 bullet point rule by saying that your company will benefit from me in 3 ways. Number 1, I bring 5 years of warehouse management experience in a very similar environment. I bring a strong track record of operational excellence where I have maintained a very high IRA, which is inventory record accuracy, high equipment utilization, and low accident rates. I'm a passionate problem solver, and that's a pivotal skill you need in a warehouse manager. So by answering this question in this way, first of all, you are already applying that 3 bullet rule, so organizing your thought process, and you are giving them like 3 key reasons. The first one is you have got the right experience, you have got a strong track record, and you are aware of key KPIs like IRA and equipment utilization and so on. And then most importantly, you are a passionate problem solver, which is a key strength required for any warehouse manager. Now let's move to the second section, which is operations management questions. And the first question you can expect in this section is, how do you ensure efficient inventory management and accuracy? Now there are a number of ways in which you can answer this question, but what I suggest here is that you should mention 4 key areas when it comes to efficient inventory management and accuracy of inventory. The first one is you should mention that you do regular cycle counting. Cycle counting is a process which is very commonly used in warehouse management, and you are regularly doing this to make sure that your inventory is always accurate. The second one is that you use advanced warehouse management systems and their techniques and their features to optimize your inventory management and inventory accuracy. And if you're using any of the advanced WMSs, they have some inherent features which will allow you to maximize your inventory accuracy, and they will also enable you to maximize the utilization of your warehouse space. So as an example, if you're using an advanced software like Blue Yonder or Manhattan, they will allow you to maximize your warehouse utilization by consolidating your partial pallets or minimizing the space which is occupied by those partial pallets and those kind of things. And of course, there are so many other features like this that you can use. So do mention this because that will show the recruiter that you are aware of some of these features. The third aspect we should talk about while answering this question is employee training. Employee training is a very important aspect of inventory optimization in the warehouse, because the more trained your staff is going to be, the less problems you will have with inventory accuracy and inventory management. So you should mention that as a key portion while answering this question. And then lastly, you should definitely mention regular audits. Auditing and regular auditing is a key process. Of course, in most companies, finance will mandate you to do like once in a year or once every 6 months audit of your inventory or a physical count or things like that. So you should definitely mention that you have in the past done a lot of regular audits of your inventory with finance and without finance to ensure that you have the right IRA and the most optimized warehouse. The second question in operations management is describe your experience with implementing and managing warehouse management systems. Now, this is a great opportunity for you to demonstrate your expertise on a specific WMS or your expertise in implementing some of these solutions as well. So if you think about some of the leading WMSs being used today by the industry, it's the Oracle Fusion Cloud WMS, Manhattan, Blue Yonder, and SAP has got their own WMS as well. So if you have got experience in any of these or even some other WMS, try to showcase your expertise around that. And also, if you have implemented that, then definitely give some examples of how did you implement it, what kind of challenges you faced, because that is going to reassure the recruiter that you not only are an expert of some of these WMSs, but at the same time, you also have the experience of implementing them. Because in a lot of companies, in most companies, I would say, at any given point in time, warehouse management solutions are either being upgraded or they are moving from one WMS to the other because there is a constant appetite to improve operational excellence. So by bringing this experience that you have, the experience of implementing a WMS in the past can maximize your chances of getting this job. Now let's move to the next section, which is team management questions. And like I mentioned earlier, as a warehouse manager, you will be at least line managing 5 people. And if the warehouse is big, it could be 10, 15, 20, or hundreds of people. So team management in some shape or form is extremely important for you as a warehouse manager. And therefore, you can expect a number of questions to come around this topic, and I will give you a few examples. The first question you can expect in this space is, how do you motivate and lead a team of warehouse workers? Now, this is a kind of a behavioral question. So the best way to answer this question is to come up with a star story. Now, if you have been watching my videos, you definitely would know what a star story is. And if you are new to this concept, then you should definitely watch my video on how to give a supply chain interview like a star, where I've explained this star concept in a lot of details. And at a very high level, star basically stands for situation, task, action, and result. So when the recruiter asks you, how do you motivate and lead a team of warehouse workers? The best way to answer this question is to give them a real example using that star structure. So how have you done this in the past? What were the challenges? What was the situation? And you can probably pick up a story where maybe the team was demotivated because of a change in the organization or something else. And then how did you motivate them and galvanize their support to make sure that they improve the results of the business, and at the same time they also are super engaged. So in this context, you should definitely talk about your leadership style as well. Like, what kind of a leader are you? Are you a servant leader? Are you an autocratic leader? Are you a transformational leader? And I'm not going to go through all the details of different leadership styles in this video, but I've made 2 videos on this topic. One is leadership styles in the corporate world, where I have kind of covered different leadership styles using some corporate leader examples like Steve Jobs, Indira Nooyi, Sundar Pichai and so on and so forth. And similarly, I've made another video on the same topic by using examples of some of the political leaders like Gandhi or Margaret Thatcher and so on. So you can definitely watch those videos to understand what the different leadership styles are. But talking about your leadership style when this kind of a question comes can be a strong weapon for you, because then you can talk about how you lead and go into a bit more detail on your style with the recruiters, because they would want to understand that if they are bringing you in as a warehouse manager, which means that you will be managing, like I said, 5 or more people, depending on the size of the warehouse or the size of the job you are getting into. They would really want to understand what kind of a leader you are, and do you really culturally fit in that organization as well. Talking about your leadership style proactively can definitely help you in succeeding. Another question that can come in the space of team management and leadership is, tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult employee situation. So here you can talk about another star story where you had to fire an employee or let go of someone, or someone was having performance issues, but then you worked with that person to improve their performance, and you didn't fire them, but you turned their performance around. And those kind of examples are the strongest examples, because when you had to let go of someone, when you have to fire someone, of course that is requiring a very different type of leadership skill as well, right? Because you have to be brutally honest with that person on their performance. You have to be very, very transparent. You should not be hiding anything. And then eventually, of course, if you had to make that tough choice, then that requires a lot of guts and a lot of courage as well to do it. So if you ever had that experience, I know it's an unpleasant experience, but talking about that in this kind of a job interview can be definitely helpful, because these kind of situations happen all the time in the warehouse. Because in a warehouse situation, a lot of times you are hiring temporary workers. These are not long-term employees sometimes. So letting go of people, hiring people is a very common thing, but at the same time you need to show that you had a lot of empathy for that person and you tried really hard before you let them go. Similarly, if you're sharing an example where someone was really having bad performance and you help them, you work with that person to turn the performance around, that is a very, very strong example, because then it's demonstrating that you are a strong manager and you have a very strong record of turning around people's performances, because then you can also give very specific details in your star story itself, where what was the specific issue. Maybe this person was going through some personal challenges at the same time, and that is what was affecting their performance, right? I had this example by the way myself, where I had to work with someone, and as I tried to understand why this person is not performing well, it was nothing to do with their aptitude or their ability. It was just that this person was going through a tough time in their life, some kind of challenging situation at home, and that was affecting this person. So in that particular case, I had to work with that person. I empathized that, okay, how do we work through in that situation? And it was this empathy I demonstrated towards that employee that really got him super engaged, and he was so committed because of the fact that I was trying to help him genuinely, that he himself started focusing on the job better, and over a period of time, of course, his personal issues also improved. So those kind of stories can be really powerful, where you had a bad performance and then you worked with the direct report to turn the performance around. Next, let's move to problem solving and decision making questions. And decision making is something which is required in a warehouse management job almost on a daily basis. Every single day you are making a decision of some kind. A truck is late. Okay, what do we do? You have a truck which is full of damaged pallets. What do you do with that, right? You have a situation where, let's say, there is infestation in a warehouse. How do you deal with that? How do you put long-term solutions to ensure that this doesn't happen? So you are making a lot of decisions on a daily basis. So one of the questions you can expect in this space is, how do you handle unexpected challenges or disruptions in warehouse operations? Once again, very important question, because you have unexpected situations in supply chain all the time, and because warehouse management is a job where the rubber hits the road and this is where the execution is happening, happening, you are the one and your team is the one who is facing the brunt of those changes. So as you answer that question, once again, you should share a real star story on what happened, what was the situation, task, action, and result. And as you explain your star story, definitely try to bring in aspects such as what did you do to analyze the situation. So whenever you have an unexpected situation, a lot of times people react in a very emotional way, right? So a rational warehouse manager would take the emotions out of the situation and he would analyze the situation factually. So definitely bring that point out. Another point you should bring out in your start story is talk about how you got your team on board, right? So whenever you have a tough situation or an unexpected challenge, you can't just do it on your own, right? So the first thing you need to do is get your team on board, right? Get their buy-in. You need to understand, what do the different members of the team think, how we should solve this problem. So how did you get them engaged? How did you encourage them to do brainstorming with you, so that you are not the only one coming up with a solution, but they were, and you were just facilitating that conversation. And then lastly, how did you celebrate small wins along the way? Because as that challenge or as that unexpected change came in, what happens is that you have to work sometimes through days and months to get out of that challenge. But as you go through that journey of recovery or of improving the situation, you will have small wins along the way. So how did you celebrate those small wins? Because those small wins can be highly motivational for your team and can go a long way in engaging your team, which once again, from a team management and leadership perspective, is a very important skill to have as a warehouse manager. The next question you can expect in this problem solving space is, what is your approach to continuous improvement and process optimization in a warehouse setting? Now, this is more of a technical question in the problem solving space because it's talking about the different continuous improvement tools you have used. So this is an opportunity for you to talk about any experience you have with things like Lean Six Sigma, Kaizen, or TPS, or the Toyota production system, root cause analysis, total quality management, the theory of constraints, and the Deming cycle, which is also known as the PDCA cycle. PDCA stands for plan, do, check, and act, which is a very iterative process of driving continuous improvement. So if you have experience with any of these tools in continuous improvement, this is a great opportunity to talk about that. And finally, let's move to the logistics and supply chain question. And the first question you can expect in this space is, what KPIs have you used to manage your operations? Now, this is a great opportunity for you to showcase your knowledge about warehouse management KPIs. So you can mention KPIs like total incident rate, which is a measure of your safety in the warehouse, on-time delivery rate, which is a measure of service, inventory turnover, which is basically a measure of your cash, order fulfillment time, warehouse utilization rate, employee productivity, order accuracy rate, storage and handling cost, damage rates, and so on. And the culmination of all this is basically two mother KPIs in this space. The first one is OTIF, which is on time and in full, because remember, as a warehouse manager, you are delivering a service to your customer. So service KPIs come on top, and OTIF is one of the most frequently used service KPIs. And then the other mother KPI for a warehouse manager is total logistics cost, or TLC. What is the total logistics cost, which includes storage and handling, freight to warehouse, freight to customer, overheads. And I think I've covered a lot of this in my video on supply chain KPIs, which you can watch by clicking over here. But as a warehouse manager, you are a key partner of your CFO or your supply finance manager or director, because you have got one of the biggest chunks of money spending pool, because you are managing the entire warehouse operation. You are working potentially with the 3PL, if it's a 3PL warehouse. So you're controlling a lot of money. So in that context, you're a key partner with finance. Just like, if you recall, I covered in the supply planning manager job interview, a supply planning manager is a key partner of finance from a cash perspective, because he or she is the one who is controlling the amount of inventory you keep. You don't control that really as a warehouse manager, because you are just working to store whatever inventory policy has been set up by planning. But you are, of course, managing the salaries, wages, and benefits of all your staff, the 3PL cost structure, and so on. And therefore, you play a key role in optimizing the finances of the company. The next question you can expect in this space is, tell me about a time when you faced a challenge with a transporter or shipping company, and how did you solve it? Now, As a warehouse manager, you are working with transporting companies or trucking companies or shipping companies on a daily basis, and therefore a lot of times these challenges come in. And once again, because this is a tell me about a time type of a question or a behavioral question, the best way to answer this is through a star story. Now, there are three key components which should definitely come out very strongly in your star story. The first one is collaboration. How did you take this challenge as an opportunity to drive collaboration with your partners and improve your relationships in the long term? The second component that should come out in your star story is how did you come up with a win-win solution? Because as a strong leader, you should never be coming up with a lose-win or win-lose situation where one party wins and one party loses, right? But how did you come up with a solution where the entire end-to-end supply chain became more productive as a result of that challenge? And that brings me to the third point, which is how, as a result of this, did you improve the overall process? So whenever a challenge comes in, because challenges come all the time, one of the key questions a good warehouse manager should be asking himself or herself is that how can I avoid this kind of situation in the future? So what steps do I need to take in order to improve the process? So that should come out very strongly as well as you narrate your star story to answer this question. And finally, let's go to the bonus questions that you should prepare in order to ask the recruiter. And always remember that whenever the recruiter says, do you have any questions for us? Never say that I don't have any questions. I think I've covered this point in a number of my previous videos as well. So always, always, always prepare some questions that you should be asking the recruiter in any job interview, and warehouse manager is no different. And before I move to those questions, just a quick reminder that if you are preparing for a supply chain job interview anytime soon, you can definitely book a session with me where I would take your resume, the job description, and I would give you some very laser guided tips and tricks which can maximize your chances of success. So now let's move to the bonus questions. So the first question you should prepare to ask the recruiter is, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the team or department right now? So this is basically showing your inquisitiveness about the challenges, right? Because a good warehouse manager is always a challenge seeker. So at the end of the job interview, you may want to just get a little bit of a feeling about what kind of challenges this particular company or this particular warehouse is facing. Another good question to ask is, what is the company culture like? Because this is demonstrating that you are seriously interested in working for this company, and therefore you want to understand more about how the culture is. So by asking this question, you can give an indication to the recruiter that, okay, I'm not just applying randomly to this job, I'm seriously interested. Another good question that can reinforce that point with the recruiter is, what is the company's policy on remote work or flexible hours? A very valid question, especially after COVID, because every organization is in a different journey on return to work. So it's a very valid question to ask and understand where this particular company is in that journey. And lastly, you could also ask, what are the next steps in the hiring process, which is a very logical question to understand about where the next steps go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've also made videos on topics like how to find entry-level jobs in supply chain and what are 3 things you can do to become a manager in supply chain. So you can watch those videos by clicking over here. Keep watching.